Well, well, well. Shopping for a car?
Yep, Carvana made financing a car as smooth as can be.
Oh, yeah?
I got pre-qualified instantly and had real terms personalized just for me.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
Well, I got to browse thousands of car options on Carvana, all within my budget.
Doesn't get much smoother than that.
It does. I actually wanted a car that seemed out of my range, but I was able to add a cosigner and found my dream car.
It doesn't get much...
Oh, it gets smoother. It's getting delivered tomorrow.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get pre-qualified today.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you all very much for tuning in today. This is Maurice, and I have a very special guest today. We've been trying to set this up for a while, and I've been really, really excited. He has attended the first ever Mental Health Youth Action Forum in Washington, D.C., where he was able to meet some very, very special guests. But, you could listen to his bio and everything else about that a little later on. But, he's from California. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Communication and Public Relations. He's worked in various places like, NASA and General Motors. But ultimately, though, I one of the things that resonates with me about this guest today, in speaking with mental health, and a lot of times in mental health and wellness, we're not sure about where things are going. So we're going to touch on that a little bit today. And, it's really exciting. I will link all his information to you so you can hear his story and other platforms he's on. He is also a passionate storyteller. So I hope y'all are ready to buckle your seatbelts today and let's get this thing rolling. I am glad to introduce to you today Zane Landin. Zane, thank you very much for coming on the show today, Zane.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Sure, no problem. So, as I explained to you, like I have had to deal with mental health, in my family, close family, whatever else. And one of your topics, in that is, embracing uncertainty. So first of all, what do you, how would someone even consider that embracing uncertainty?
Well, I think it has to do with, first understanding what uncertainty is, just this idea of not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, living in this space of not knowing what comes next, I think that, we always live in uncertainty, but it's about embracing what that next step is and like just understanding that we don't always have everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if one thing, hopefully collectively, what COVID did teach us is that during times of uncertainty, we have to be very careful in the decisions we make.
Right.
And we have to understand that sometimes things just don't work out or things are earth-shattering. Like, where a global pandemic does in fact happen and it impacts like literally billions of lives and so many people lost their lives. And, a lot of people weren't around that, and a lot of people have not had this experience of losing so many people, of being isolated. And then, of course, many people experience like a huge decline in their mental health because of that uncertainty and just the way the world was moving in this like negative direction. So that's why I do believe in embracing uncertainty, because it's like this idea of, again, we don't know what the next step is.
Right.
But to me, that's what can make life exciting and kind of like an adventure. That does not mean that, bad times won't happen, because we make decisions and things don't work out. But what I hope is that when you embrace the uncertainty, it's the idea that even though something didn't work out, you're on a new path now, a new path that I believe is, your true direction. Not everyone's going to believe that, but I do believe that, things happen for a reason. I know that's more of a spiritual idea than maybe a practical one. But for me,
Mm.
that's how I move forward in embracing uncertainty. That you don't know what next step is. You don't know what that next step is, and it can be great. It may not be, but it's about embracing this idea that you don't know what comes next, and you never know. Like in 5 years, you may be in a totally different career path, and that's
Right.
okay.
Right.
It's okay for our purposes to change. Because I hear people say, "Oh, I found my purpose," and I'm like, "That's good for you." But for some people, every 3 to 5 years, their purpose does change.
Right. Right.
That's embracing the idea of uncertainty because you are allowing this new idea to come into your life and you can make an impact. And it's okay if things change or your
Mm-hmm.
attitude changes or your opinions change.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask this then. Because of uncertainty, people develop various fears, right? Because of
Oh, yeah.
change. So how would you um advise someone or even encourage someone just to get over that fear of change? Because a lot of people deal with that, and then that kind of backfires on them a little bit. So how would you express to someone to overcome their fear?
Yeah. I mean, and I know that, as humans, we like biologically crave stability. Like
Yes.
it's something that we absolutely want and we absolutely do need it. Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying live in complete chaos because that won't work. Uh, And for the people that hey, there's some people that do thrive on chaos. I hope
Mm-hmm.
they find some peace in their life because I don't know how you can thrive just on chaos. It's a little too chaotic for me, but a little bit. And so I don't know. I don't know. I think it's about just like looking at every decision that you've made, right?
Mm-hmm.
And look at those times where you made a decision and it didn't go right, but look at the positive outcomes that you have had.
Right.
And if you never made that step, you wouldn't be in this position. And I think that, again, every single step that you've taken
Mm-hmm.
is why you are the way you are now. And that's why there's like a billion versions of yourself, because every
Mm.
single step that you take, you'll be a different outcome.
Right.
So if you think about it, there's going to be a billion versions of yourself because there's like a billion, more like an infinite amount of outcomes possible, right?
Right.
So it's just looking at those many steps that you've taken to get where you are and just think, if you didn't take that step, where would you be? That's where I think hopefully the fear kind of crumbles because you're
Mm.
kind of seeing that, hey, actually, it was worth it. And you don't have to go from 0 to 100. Like,
Right.
as you realize, it's all been a journey and you take these many steps. And so embracing uncertainty doesn't mean that you're going to like have one career and shift completely the next day.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
works for some people, like even in movies they show that, but that's not kind of how reality works sometimes. And
Right.
so that's what I would say is, look at those many decisions that you made and where you've come and just look at how far it's taken you. And sometimes when you've made those many decisions, it didn't work out. And if you're on that path, hopefully you're moving on towards, again, a more like a direction that is suited better for your growth and development in the future.
So one of the things that we're talking about, or what I'm really getting to, right? Excuse me. When we overcome our fears and overcome these, or embracing these pieces of uncertainty, how important are these for us to find our true purpose in life? Because I think sometimes we lose sight of that, finding our why or whatever it might be. So how would you put that together, overcoming your fear, embracing uncertainty for someone to find their true purpose in life?
I think it's like, of course, incredibly difficult to find your true purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we're always finding it.
Yes.
Again, I know that some people are at that true purpose mark, and that's great. But I do think that we're always striving towards that. Because even if my true purpose is mental health, I'm still figuring out what that looks like. Is it speaking? Is it policy? There's so
Mm-hmm.
many different avenues you can take. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is still about exploration. That's why, again, embrace uncertainty is about exploration.
Right.
And that is why, when people ask, how do you find your true purpose? I always say be open to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Try everything. That doesn't mean you have to like literally try everything. But if an opportunity does come your way and you're just like, I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm not
Right.
interested in finance. I'm not interested in car manufacturers. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
if the opportunity comes your way, I would consider it. And maybe there's a chance you enter that space and you absolutely love it. Or you don't
Mm-hmm.
really love it, but you love the people you're around. And
Mm-hmm.
that creates a whole new space. Because when I was at General Motors, I interned there twice.
Okay.
I didn't really care for cars. I really did not. And they even told me, in the interview, like, you don't need to like be passionate about cars. It's actually best if you don't, because as a communicator, you don't want to
Interesting.
be biased, right? And
Interesting.
so it's actually best if you come in with this like this mindset that you don't know much about cars, you don't have this heavy bias, so you can write more objectively. So, and then to me that makes sense. So I came in not really knowing much about cars. I still don't really have a huge passion for cars. I haven't,
Mm-hmm.
an appreciation for General Motors and what they do and what they've, what they produce and manufacture. But I still absolutely love the people, the culture. I met so many connections there. I became a more passionate advocate because of the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know what doors are going to open when you enter a space. It may not even be the door you're looking for. Like, oh, I want to become passionate about cars. Maybe that didn't happen, but maybe you grew in another area that you didn't expect. And so again, embracing uncertainty is about also looking up at an opportunity. Maybe it wasn't the exact reward you were expecting, but it took you in a totally different direction, if that makes sense.
Oh no, it makes total sense. And I think as we continue to grow and have different types of experiences, our purpose, our opportunities change, because of who you meet and what what you've been able to experience as far as maybe doing a presentation or working on this team and things like that. So I think those type of things change over a period of time. It matures into something else that you sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. So for an example, again, like I stated earlier in your intro, how you've met people, you've been able to work on the mental health youth action forum in DC. And it stated, that you met President Biden, Salima Gomez, and, Dr. Biden. How does that, influence you to move forward, especially in a space that you might not have been, certain about? Because those sometimes those type of interactions, someone encourages you to say, you know what, you'd be really good for this spot. I think those type of things help individuals to find out who they are and their purpose and things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think like that entire event itself, like to me, I was incredibly shocked that I was even chosen. I did
Really?
apply for it. And I even like told myself not to apply because like in your head you convince yourself that you're not ready for something, or you don't have the qualifications, or
Right.
they're not going to choose you. It's easy to let those shadowy figures kind of trump your mindset.
Yeah.
But I kind of just told myself, hey, you know what? Just stop focusing on that. Just press the submit button. Like just press it. Like I already wrote things out, and it wasn't a complicated application. Luckily, it was like simple, like 3 questions and like demographic information. So I don't know how they decided, but but I can definitely sense like some of the things that I've done that have gotten me there. Even like the digital magazine that I have, Positive Vibes magazine, where I've interviewed several mental health
Mm-hmm.
experts and people who have the lived experience, and where I was able to really speak more on mental health because of that. Again, it was like another step that got me there. But no, if you asked me if I would ever do something like that as a kid, I would say no. I always had this vision of going to the White House, being invited, but I thought it would be towards the end of my life or towards the end of my career if I've accomplished something great. Um, so like the idea that I got to do that, even just last year, it was just a phenomenal experience, and it was just so like eye-opening in that the work I'm doing it's being seen, and like my work does have impact, because sometimes when you're doing the work and you're like
Right.
so heavy set on behind the screen and doing the work from behind the scene, you're like, is this really impacting people? Am I really making a difference here? And so when
Mm.
you say that, what you said about when someone gives you that encouragement, it's not just words of encouragement for you, but it's that words of encouragement that your work is impacting someone else though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, question, what was your experience like advocating for mental health at the White House? What was that experience like? Because I mean, now, and I'm asking because, I guess, you're from California, so I had to go from California all the way across the country, to have that type of experience. What was that like, for you?
Gosh, I've always, my mom was super into DC and like, the history of, this country and the Civil War, like a lot of interesting things that have made up this country. And so, and, of course, so many terrible things. And,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
to be in that space, like this is like a historical monument. And it's very funny. It's not super coincidental because my first job out of university was National Geographic. And I got that job last November. And so my 1 year is coming up next month. And
Nice.
so, But what's funny is, I had to move to DC for the job opportunity. So it was
Really?
interesting how I came back, um, you know, to this district. But yeah, like being there, and it's different because I was thinking about it and I was like, but so many people have been, again, I'm downplaying it. I feel like we downplay, our experiences. And when I was,
Yeah.
before I went to the White House, I was like, is this that big of a deal? Because like so many people have been to the White House, and that's true.
Right.
But I don't know if a lot of people can say they were like exclusively invited for a specific reason. And so, I feel really humbled that, I was given that opportunity, but also, very proud of that moment because I feel like people do that. Like people accomplish so many amazing things and they downplay it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and when someone gets a job and they worked hard to get that job, and they'll say, "Oh, I was lucky in the process." I'm like, "No, you weren't lucky. You there's like, I mean, of course, we all have, I think we have some amount of luck,
Right.
but I think your hard work still stood out, and that's why I think you were ultimately chosen. And so, that's what I would say is, I had like this humble experience, but just even being in the White House, it was kind of euphoric. It didn't feel real, of course. And then like I told myself, I said, this is gonna be over in like a minute.
Yeah.
Not physically or literally. It was more like it's gonna be over real soon. And
Right.
so I kind of had to just like sit with my thoughts. And even like the other participants, they were like taking pictures of everything and like talking a lot. And some people were like kind of being present and sitting where they were. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to do that, and I followed some of those folks because I was like, I need to really be present because this moment is going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to try to appreciate every single moment. And that's why when you hear about people who meditate and you hear when they say stay grounded in your
Mm-hmm.
meditation,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's important to do that, but it's important to stay grounded everywhere. So these amazing opportunities don't just, go away in a blink of an eye because you were too overwhelmed by the opportunity that you never got to really appreciate it.
Wow, Zane. You know, I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of kids out there, young people out there that never imagined for themselves to get to that point, to become an advocate, seeing some of their, these influential individuals, and for you to be able to get to this point, I thank you for sharing your experience on that and how even your parent it helped to influence that, also. So I wonder, not just it being a goal for you or an accomplishment, but what was that like for your parent to, for you to have that experience? It just sounds like it's a well-rounded blessing, if you will, for everyone around you.
It was, and it was really nice to see my family like really proud, and even like for some of the folks in my family, because like on my dad's side we have a pretty big like Hispanic family, and
Mm-hmm.
so like I wasn't able to tell everyone, but like some of my family members saw me on TV because the
Nice.
event was broadcasted on TV and like several news channels, and so yeah, they saw me in the corner, and then like they messaged my dad saying, will we see Zane? And like that to me is exciting that, well, it's exciting that, my family saw me, but it's also exciting that, the event was broadcasted that anyone can see that, people are just naturally talking about mental health,
Mm-hmm.
not even just sharing their story, but sharing their story on a stage, at the highest point of the federal government.
Right, right.
And even though at that moment, like nothing structural was changing, like there were no policies implemented at that point. It was just people sharing their stories. It's still like a symbolic feeling of seeing that, especially if it's a child or an adult,
Mm-hmm.
that is
Mm-hmm.
experiencing a decline in their mental health, and just seeing people openly talk about it and like talk about it unapologetically, like talking about self-harm and suicide, like I feel like we talk about mental health, but sometimes we still strive away from like some of the more scarier topics like that where it's life-threatening. But
Right.
it's still very real and it's still really prevalent when you look at the amount of people that engage in self-harm and suicide. We treat suicide like it's this taboo, but if you look at how many people actually die by suicide, it's not that abnormal. Actually, I think it's a very normal experience. We just really don't want to talk about it.
And I think some of the other things that you're advocates for, or that you speak about, disability, queer rights activists, all these things attribute to this mental health instability, if you will, because of being marginalized. As you also say, you're, Hispanic, things like that. So all these places where people can marginalize you, if you will, affects our mental health, ultimately, which also helps us to figure out how we're going to embrace uncertainty, because we don't know how people are going to deal with us from day to day. You know, how do we overcome those fears of even just walking outside? You know, because those are things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. You know, so but I appreciate, you know, you sharing, you know, and we didn't touch those things because I really want people to go back and follow you on all your social media. So Zane, you know, let everyone know where they can follow you. You did mention your magazine, which I have looked at, Positive Vibes Mag, you know, so, but, you know, share with the listeners where they can find you and subscribe and all those type of things.
I always try to make myself, you know, as accessible as possible. So it's just my name. I know it's not like a cool handle or anything like that, but it's just my name because, you know, like you said, if someone just searches me up, I want to be as accessible as possible.
Right.
And so, yeah, just my name. If you type in my name, hopefully you'll find things I've written, things I've been featured in, and my social medias. It should be all there.
So, you know, some of the things he has been featured in, again, being humble, you know, being Forbes, BuzzFeed, coming from the heart, things like that. So, you know, we understand that you're being humble, bro.
Oh, thank you.
But, you know, I appreciate you coming on, you know, and before I let every guest go, I always ask them this question. Okay. Is my would you rather question, right? And so would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork on the road?
I don't know. Let me think real quick. Because I know, am I going to look like a little hypocritical if I don't choose the 3 doors because I'm not embracing uncertainty? I guess I would choose the fork because I know exactly what it is. And I guess I can use it as a tool because I don't know. I feel like I'm going back on what I said about uncertainty. Uncertainty. I would open that door, but who knows what's waiting behind it? It could be a tiger or something.
Right.
Or it could be $1 million. But I'll take that fork. I'm gonna be stable with this one.
Well, you know, in reality though, the fork is uncertainty too. You just have one less option.
That's true.
You know,
the fork still, yeah.
But cool. You know, thank you very much. You know, for doing the would you rather thing. Most people most recently have been choosing the fork because they want to lessen their options, if you will. You know, but I thank you very much. You know, all your information will be, you know, in the description. And Zane, we look forward to seeing more great things from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me again.
Sure, no problem. Thank you very much. And listen out for more That Will Never Work content coming out to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Every day, my company gets scam phishing emails trying to get money or sensitive info. I wanted to protect my employees and my clients, so I checked out CISA's Secure Our World. They've got simple ways we can protect our businesses from online threats. First, teach employees to recognize and report phishing. Next, require strong passwords plus multi-factor authentication. And finally, turn on automatic updates for your business software. To learn more, go to CISA at CISA.gov/Secure Our World.